Good. There we are, everybody. Hello, everyone. My name is Oakwalker, and this is my good friend Frank Stronghorse, who is my partner in crime on our podcast, which is called Earth Medicine for the Soul. Today is our 35th episode, if you can believe that. And we're going to be moving forward talking about a little bit about freedom today so that we can kind of pull that into context with a more of a shamanic perspective as to what it means to be free in the spirit, as opposed to just, like thinking you can walk on the street without being harassed. Um, you want to start, Frank? Because you kind of had some ideas going in.
Yeah, I think freedom from the perspective of spirit is vastly different from freedom from a political standpoint. And so when we you and I agreed that this is be the topic for, I started thinking about it, and kind of what I came up with is, which is kind of interesting, is that. If you look at a spectrum, on one end you've got what I would call branding, and on the other end you have what I'd call the authentic self.
Mhm.
And so branding, I think, was probably an outgrowth of tribalism, where people became it was vitally important to be a part of something, to be a part of a group, and then that group took on an identity. And so branding could be I'm a Catholic, I'm a Jew, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Uh-huh.
And so freedom has always been tried to be defined or looked at from this collective branding scenario where one group is claiming that they're way more free than the other group, or they got the key to freedom or whatever. From a shamanic standpoint, you see that as being really a collection of false idols.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Mhm.
And then so what's the opposite of that? Well, the authentic self, which is very few people really understand that, because I think it's pretty relative new concept. The authentic self is really something that's where what I would define that as the soul, the conscious engagement of the soul's knowing of itself. And shamanism is really kind of that exercise. Everything that we've talked about through this 34 other episodes was really, we were talking about the individual, and how it's important to unload of some of the burdens that you carry through what you take on by being a part of this branded society. And
Mhm.
the since the dawn of time, shamans have always remained outside of the village. And there's a purpose for that, because they can't really do the healing and the work they need to do if they're immersed in the collective. And so it's like they do that to protect their authentic sense of self. It's more important to them to protect their spirit and their soul, to be able to access that part of themselves so that they could do healing for the people when it was necessary. And so I think that's kind of my baseline of what freedom looks like to me. Does that sound reasonable to you?
It does. I have always really appreciated in my own shamanic pursuit of things that the actual the amount of freedom that I have to explore all of the different aspects of my own self aren't um, aren't dependent on the world and its opinions and its um, belief structures, right? What I love about the spiritual freedom is the idea that I can go on and move through really truly revolutionary ways of thinking, at least from my own perspective, I think that this is essential because in order for us to be the healers that we need to be able to listen. And we need to be able to listen to voices, internal voices, and sometimes external voices that are not the same as what people are normally used to listening to. It's not your boss, it's not your mother, it's not your father, it's not your family, not other people. It's not anything, it's not television, billboards, it's not anything basically cultural. It goes beyond all of that. And and it's a sense of freedom that we can only have because it comes from that sense of knowing in our hearts and minds that the unity of that peaceful acceptance of things the way they are, right? So once you have the freedom of not being manipulated essentially by the belief structures of your own culture, now you have the freedom to go through your your process, your growth process. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I would add to that, though, that, because we're constantly bringing up the natural world and Mother Earth,
mhm.
and I can look I mean, I think the times when I felt the freest, that it was that, I mean, just that sort of that ultimate freedom uh, was generally speaking kind of when I was hiking alone through the Sierra Madres down in Mexico, and
Mhm.
I would come into these places where the man had not really been, or very few of them had been, and there was a harmonic resonance there that was overwhelming. I mean, it was just overwhelming, and I would sit into that and get into it and feel it and become a part of it, and so it led me to realize that part of being free is realizing consciously that you are a part of a harmonic resonance that's bigger and greater than yourself.
Yeah.
And we could call that the creator, we could call it God, we could call it Mother Earth. What you call it doesn't really matter. What matters is, are you willing to take the time to investigate and enter into and become part of it? Because until you do that, until you become part of something bigger than yourself, that's outside of the branding, or this identity crisis that everybody's struggling with in the world, you're really not going to know freedom in its pure essence. I mean, that's my feeling on it. What do you think?
Would one way to say it being the freedom to go into the flow
Yeah.
or the freedom to, because you have to let yourself go in order to feel that expansive or that flowing sensation of being in the spirit, which is a completely dynamic realm, right? That's why that word flow is so applicable toward that experience of being truly engaged with what spirit is because I feel like when I'm in it, I'm in motion. And in order to do that, I have to literally free myself from those things that are constraining me from absolutely just letting go. Another kind of a form maybe of surrender or letting go that mhm.
Well, and you'll do that in your healing work. You'll put a voice to it. You
Yeah,
say, I ask my ego to stand aside. I step, out of my chosen identity, and or however you choose to frame it, and you're basically saying, I want, like Black Elk says, I want to become the hollow bone, and
yeah.
but you state that very clearly. That's my intent. And, I think a lot of people underestimate the power of words. A great
That's a
deal
real good
of
point.
one's a great deal of one's freedom is how you manage your words, because everything every word you use attaches you to a thought form. Every
Yes,
one of them.
yes,
And if you're using words and phrases and picking up on these various branding or belief system uh, triggers, you're
Hmm.
attaching yourself to thought forms that are continually compounding and robbing you of your freedom.
I agree. I completely agree with that. And where I feel like this is going is that now, since, hmm, okay, it's not just words, it's everything you see in your mind, right? So the spiritual path is really one of a symbolic path, right? So once we've given ourselves the freedom to flow and to stop imposing our own ideas and our own um, belief structures onto what we're doing, at that point, the symbolism that can, spirit speaks through symbols, right? It really is all about symbolism. And spirit needs the freedom to introduce new symbols, right? You have
Right.
to be able to engage with a completely new and important idea, basically, or a vision or a reality. You've got to be able to engage with stuff that you've never seen before. And if you don't have the freedom of allowing things to take place in an organic way and to grow and develop without your intervention, you're you're going to stifle your own growth. And so if you can't deal with new symbolism, then you're finding that you've lost your freedom, or you've what nipped it in the bud. There was a word I had in my head, but it just went right out. But
The
basically, it
question
means
for you, I
not
mean, is
getting it.
is let's put the horse before the cart here, or the cart before the horse. I mean, does does freedom provide you for the environment within which you can expand into those other areas, or does the expansion into those areas provide you with freedom?
Don't you think it's kind of a dance?
I
Um,
do.
yeah, because what that says to me is that you you release like the exhale, and then new information comes in, and that's like the inhale, right? And then you release again, and it's the exhale, but but you're not driving this thing. It's not like you're, doing your Kegels or whatever it is that you do. It's like you just really need to let it out and then take it in. And I think that those are both expressions of freedom
Yeah, I agree
in a
with that,
way.
and I think the challenge is to step away from uh, the constant. That's there you have, my issue with technology. Technology is an invasive species, that is coming in and robbing you of the time and the ability to do just exactly what you're saying, and it's promoted as though, no, no, we're going to provide, this is exactly what will provide you with that time. But I don't see it working out like that. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to, it's all going to turn into, nirvana. But I just see people becoming, consumed with this stuff to such a degree that they just objectively and objectively separate themselves from the natural order, or what I call organic intelligence, by becoming infatuated with artificial intelligence. And I think that that's a very dangerous proposition.
Well, I agree with you that it's completely non-functional. I think I see it just only slightly differently. And it is that, excuse me, we keep developing these new technologies. And I think what's going on there is it's an attempt to replace those things that we've divorced ourselves from. So we long to be able to communicate over long distances. We used to be able to do that telepathically.
Right.
The Aborigines down in Australia can still do it. It's part of their culture. It's part of what they learn as
Right.
children. And as we've divorced ourselves continually more and more and more and more away from the unity of the community of humans, and we've isolated ourselves greater and greater and greater. Now we have to invent a radio. Now we have to invent television. Now we have to invent all of these replacements for the spiritual experience, right? So we're seeking for meaning through our technology when in fact what we really ought to be seeking out is that connection with the universe.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, it's almost taking, to be really, I guess, crude about it, it's almost taking a very sacred a part of ourselves and figuring out how to make money on it.
Right,
You know, I mean,
right.
it really is. It's like, well, we're going to teach you how to do this and this and this, and then as a shaman, you're like, well, yeah, like I already know how to do that. You
Why
know,
would I want that?
I don't need a monthly fee to be able to do that, man. I can do that without any. It's it's part of our natural being. I mean,
Hmm.
you're going to charge me for this? I mean, oh, come
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah, well, that's
but
the
people that haven't
colonialism
experienced it,
thing.
they can't understand that, I don't think.
I agree. I think that, and not only, so now we're getting into my pet peeve because not only because do they not understand it, but they derogate it, and they denigrate it, and this is coming from that ego of arrogance where they're saying, well, nobody can do that. You can't really do that, and I'm like, well, actually, that's happening all the time. How do I know that you're not feeling well when you walk into the room? Because I can feel it, right? It's just the way it works, right? When you're in the universe, and the universe is a humongous pool of energy that's dynamic and currents are running all around it, and you can feel those currents just as if you were in a frickin' uh, pond in a creek, right? When you're in a still water place that the creek is running alongside of or sort of through you can feel all these different currents. It gets cooler. You can feel the water moving. You can feel the temperature moving in and out when you're swimming around in this stuff. And that's just like it is walking into a room when you've trained your empathic side, right? When you've allowed yourself to gain confidence in the experience of being one with the universe or in touch with the universe at any rate, it isn't all of that weird for you to understand, for you to know who's upset in the room, right? When I work at Pegasus, the boys I work with at Pegasus, I like to I like to take a rock that I've picked up off the ground and go to each boy's while they're just before they wake up, go to the end of each boy's bed and just use the rock as a little bit of a, sensing mechanism so that I can tell a little bit. I mean, it's not overwhelming, but I can tell a little bit who's having a bad day, who had a bad night, somebody got a bad phone call. And it's not 100%, but it's very, very helpful in helping me to understand why sometimes these kids that are normally pretty good are suddenly having a bad day and acting out a little bit. And that's all because of the ability to read the room, if you will, And
Right.
getting back to that freedom, if I weren't allowing myself to stay in that flow, to be free of the bullshit of the culture and of the radio and of the, uh, other people's belief structures, which are also acting in that very same environment as noise to have to go around, without the freedom to experience exactly what's going on in there, I wouldn't be able to do that, and I wouldn't be as empathic as I am. I wouldn't be able to feel when people are hurting, when they need help, when I should be gentle, when I shouldn't be gentle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I think really kind of I mean, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is when you're looking at various systems, regardless of what they are, in terms of freedom, you have to ask yourself, well, is this a benefit or is this not a benefit to my ability to be one with the grace of God? You
Hmm.
know, I mean, that's to me, that's just sort of I mean, that's the kingpin right there because with this new world coming upon us, this big shift, the fifth world, that God's grace is going to be predominant. And I think, if people get aligned in these groups that are branded and they buy into their belief systems or their dogma, and they think, well, I've got to have the freedom to do this and that, but empathically or telepathically, can they really perceive God's grace, or are they just buying into somebody's story? And
Right.
I think that becomes the conflict. We're moving out of the story and into our own sense of self, which is, I think, gonna become the truth of the authentic self. This is where
Hmm.
the world's headed, I think.
Yeah.
And so, you and I have stepped into these shamanic worlds because we were weird like that, but it's been a benefit to us
Yeah.
for that purpose. I
Hmm.
mean, I can't there's nothing else that I can put my finger on that can tell me this provided my experience, one-on-one experience with God, better than a shamanic ceremony out on Mother Earth. I haven't.
Yeah.
There is nothing that I've been able to see that. I mean, because that's it. And you're experiencing it in real time. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's no doubt. There's no hyperbole. There's no like, well, I'm relying on what this person told me. It's not any of that, man. It's just you and the natural world and God. And whatever happens there is for you and you only. And that completely separates itself out from what I think we've been doing with this branding scenario over the last
Hmm.
2, 3,000 years,
Yeah. Which brings to mind that so it takes skills, right? You have to just like any other education into any other system. Like if I wanted to be a scientist, I need to get an education, right? And in all of these, to learn anything, you have to learn to listen. And if you're going to be free, you have to learn to listen. And that is the essential and the critical like step one is being able to actually listen to the things that are going to lead you into freedom and that are going to both express your freedom and allow your freedom. Otherwise, you're going to just miss the boat all over the place, over and over and over again, completely.
I've
Um,
I've had actually when I was teaching in Austin, I've had people ask me to say, "Well, can you talk to trees?" And I like anybody can talk to trees. It's having the trees talk to you that's important.
right? Can you hear the tree? Now that's
That's right. That's right. That's where it's really, if you can hear the trees now, you've crossed the war. You're in the ball game, man.
right. And so I'm what they call, I mean, and there are people who can see real well, they can see those currents in the pool, right? They can see like different shades of light and colors and stuff like that. That is not me. I am what they call clairsentient. So clairvoyant are the people who can see all kinds of cool stuff. The clairaudience are the people who just hear things, audio. And I'm clairsentient, so I'm the one who can go in and feel stuff. And so I don't listen to a tree, right? But I I feel the tree, you know? And when I'm listening to spirit and when I'm doing healings, for example, I get some pictures sometimes in my head, but mostly I'm just going through the feelings of the things. And that's where we get back to that thing that the Melchizedeks were talking about the last time we had a session, which is how to determine whether a frequency is a good frequency or a bad frequency, right? So is this current that I'm talking about in this swimming pool, is this a good current or a bad current? And the simple answer is, does it make you feel good? Is it a healthy feeling? Does it warm your heart? Is it enriching and enlightening and making you feel like you're moving toward home? Or is it angry feeling or a super cold, like icy, knives, icicles in your skin? That's a way of discerning. Discernment is important. Discerning whether or not you want to move into that current or not, or move into a warmer, more welcoming and inviting current. So that's, I
Yeah,
think, going to be a big part of how people manage the shift, is to determine whether or not they want to go and be angst-ridden or peaceful.
yeah, and I think it's important that people understand that the teachings I always got is that you have seers, and then you have feeler seers,
Uh-huh.
and you and I are both feeler seers. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I've had people that just have amazing vision abilities. And I'm like, man, I don't know how you do that.
Right.
you know,
Wouldn't
I'm
that be
like you.
nice?
I mean, yeah, really. Turn me on to that, will you?
Yeah.
But I'm more of a feeler seer, and the thing about the feeler seer, I think, is it forces you to develop your inner knowing,
Hmm.
and that inner knowing is really leads you into the heart, because the heart is the source of knowing. The mind is the
Yeah.
source of, you know,
Discernment.
conflict. Yeah, discernment. That's good. And so I think that I mean, I agree with you, but the thing I would add to that would be that you have to put in the element of love.
Oh,
If
I
there's a
agree. Yeah.
love for you that you're feeling, like, from, even if you're just like, I wonder if I could talk to that tree, or
Yeah.
establish a love connection with the tree. Just show it respect, man.
Yeah.
You know, give it
Yeah, I
some
completely agree.
tobacco. I'm just here to
Offerings.
learn. I mean, I have no idea if I can talk to a tree or whatever, but I heard these two crazy people on Facebook. I thought I'd try this out, and so, give them a little pinch of tobacco and thank them for
Yeah.
listening to you, and go out and, you know, do whatever, man. Tell them
Uh-huh.
what, just talk to it. It's really cheap therapy
Yeah, it
at the
is.
very minimum.
Yeah, put
It's
your
very
back up
cheap.
against it or your forehead up against it and see what happens. And listen and just relax and listen. Just relax. It's so important.
Or I remember one of my early relationships. You know, she started getting all upset and stuff. I'd go, "Well, why don't you just go out and hug a tree?" And she looked at me and says, "Yeah, I can really pick them." Like, well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
okay, yeah. You are having a bad day, aren't you, dear?
Go hug a tree. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I think freedom is a topic we can probably keep building on, and but I also think that maybe segue into authenticity, the authentic self,
Uh-huh.
and what that looks like, because I really believe, the more and more that I think about it, that this authentic self is going to become the primary focus of all the energies on the planet for the next 1,000 years, or whatever you want to call the age of Aquarius.
Uh-huh.
And people learning to pull away from belief systems and start relying on their own intuition and introspection, and willingness to open themselves up to spirit, and to the natural world and to the creator is is going to be tantamount and far more important than anything else that's coming down the line for us. And so, I think that you and I can step into that and start bringing that to the forefront a little more. It may be informative.
Well, I agree. We've touched on authenticity before, in a lot of, and it's something that I think has so many facets that we're going to now start touching on authenticity in terms of our the freedom of expression, like for now, and just keeping moving on forward. Authenticity is truly the purpose of all of this, you know? And so, moving forward, ooh, running out of time. So, moving forward, I really like the idea of uh, going into authenticity as this the authenticity of this, right? The authenticity of self overall, and but it comes across to us in a lot of different facets, right? So there's the authenticity of expression, there's the authenticity of um, uh, behavior, there's the authenticity of understanding, and this is something that we're going to sort of have to build into a giant Lego set of authentic beliefs as we move forward. That was a weird way to put that. Next session, I'll try and make that make a little bit more sense. Anyway, what
Um,
we need to
so my
close,
concern, I think, is okay. All
but it
right.
doesn't have to be right away. You want to finish that thought?
Well, I was going to say that I don't want people moving. I want to help people understand they shouldn't move from one branded uh, belief system to another branded belief system with the thought that they're creating a new world out of that, and
Uh-huh.
and because this authenticity thing is it's a whole new frontier, man. It's a whole new thing, and it's important that we cover as much as we can so that people get an idea of what that looks like.
Yep, I completely agree. And it has to be that authenticity isn't something, yeah, so I wish I hadn't said Lego. We don't build our own authenticity. We unbuild to achieve authenticity, you know? And so
Yeah,
authenticity is
it's
a thing we
there. We just have
experience.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's there. We just have to learn how to birth it.
right, exactly. Okay, well, we do have to kind of go. And so I'm sorry about that because sometimes we're just getting started and then it's time to finish it all up. So we'll come back on this in another episode, which might be in 10 minutes, and continue on with this vital discussion, really, in my opinion, as to what's coming down and how we're going to adjust and relate to uh, these new energies that are coming down onto the planet. I am deeply grateful to all of our listeners and everybody out there who have uh, stayed with us and been with us and listened to us, even if it's just catches can and random, where there's always a little something in one of our episodes to uh, be thought-provoking for people. And I'm starting to see a little bit of traction out there as we keep moving forward with these things. I do you want to do do you want to do the closing thing?
The, only the Great
Only the
Spirit
Great
is
Spirit
perfect.
is perfect. We've not got that unified yet. I'm just going to give that over to you and let you just close us out with that. I think that's the best way to go with
That'll
that.
be that'll be my function.
Yeah, that's that's your like, you know, what did Cronkite used to say? Courage.
Right.
Or was that Dan Rather? I forget. Um, thank you, everyone. We are going to sign off now, and we'll be seeing you very, very soon, I hope. And stick with us. We are Earth Medicine for the Soul. You can visit us at earth-ems.org. Thank you.